next. Welcome back to the channel, and specifically welcome to all the new subscribers we recently got. Derek Van Schaik here. Chris Watts is that Northern Colorado man who pled guilty to murdering his pregnant wife, Shanann, and his two young daughters, Bella and Celeste, on August 13th, 2018. We're going to analyze Chris Watts' interrogation footage and break down body language to reveal how the FBI and CBI cracked Chris Watts into finally confessing. But first, let's turn back the clock to quickly recap what happened, which led up to this powerful FBI interrogation of Chris Watts. Chris backs his truck up partway into the garage to give himself cover to load his family's bodies into the back seat of his work truck. Police officer Scott Coonrod arrives at the house that day because Shanann's friend, Nicole, called 911. Nicole was concerned because Shanann wasn't responding to anyone's phone calls or text messages. Chris kept all the doors locked, so no one was able to get inside the house, likely in case Chris thought of some last-minute crime scene cleanup and track covering while at work that day. When Chris gets home,
How you doing?
and they finally get inside the house, it starts to become obvious Chris is somehow involved in their disappearance. So Officer Coonrod tests Chris to see how guilty Chris really feels. Now, if you never saw a grown man shit his pants, watch this.
Dispatch work 91. You can cancel medical if they're staged.
He thought Officer Coonrod was radioing him in to arrest him right there. Chris then continues to bury himself into his phone, likely texting his secret mistress. It's so obvious he doesn't want his family back. They then all go over to neighbor Nate's house to look at the day's security footage. Now, this is incredible. Chris Watts is watching himself for the first time cover up his murders. Remember, this just happened 12 hours earlier. He's now watching himself cover up his crimes with a police officer standing right behind him. Chris is about to shit himself. Neighbor Nate knew Chris was guilty from his body language. Watch this.
No.
It's now the next day, August 14th, 2018. Today, cadaver dogs pick up scents to help locate the girls. Chris does his infamous media interviews, and this evening, the FBI begins interrogating Chris.
Just have to ask again, you're 100% okay with the dog going in there, searching any part of the house? And again, this is just consensual.
I don't need to sign anything.
Feel free to say no if you want to.
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Remember, these dogs probably aren't like your dog and certainly not like my late dogs, where they bark at squirrels and neighbors. They're highly trained to bark when they pick up scents. Cadaver dogs are trained to smell death and sometimes know where someone has died, provided not too much time has passed.
I have no inclination of where she is.
And did you see the kids in the morning too?
Just in the monitor.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hey, Chris, Gordon. Chris, it's up to you. You get to dictate. That's kind of what we want.
Yeah, I'm good right here. Wherever they're at, I have no inclination of where they're at right now. I just want them people to know that I want my family back. I want them safe. I like these shirts a lot. That's why I want everybody back.
Police who have searched the family home and...
So, it's just a different dog, essentially trying to do the same thing.
That's Nick and Amanda Thayer. They were close friends of Chris. They're hanging out with Chris today to show support.
He stayed the night at our house across the hall from our 5-year-old.
That'll haunt me.
You still okay with that dog going inside? Okay.
I think we're going to shoot this way. So if you want to be out of the shot, stand over there.
Absolutely.
If somebody has her and they're not safe, I want them back now. I want everybody to just come home. Wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want.
Now the interrogation. Remember, Chris is not under arrest. He is voluntarily here. You may be wondering, why on earth would Chris agree to do this? Well, Chris is clearly a narcissist and likely a psychopath. Therefore, he has an inflated ego, so he thinks he can talk his way out of all this and exonerate himself.
Probably, you know.
Yep.
Do you have a preference?
This is FBI agent Graham Coder. He's the lead interrogator. Look at how Graham is dressed. Casual, right? Maybe your high school guidance counselor? Now, how would things change if he was wearing one of those FBI jackets or anything with FBI on it? Right, Chris would be thinking, FBI, 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 I gotta be careful of what I say. Even though Graham surely has one of those FBI jackets hanging in his office closet right now, he would never wear it into an interrogation.
Doesn't matter. Okay. I'm gonna sit next to you so we can look at it together.
Notice where Graham chose to sit. He's sitting alongside Chris to create the feeling of working together on the same team. Sitting across from somebody creates adversarial feelings, causing the suspect to not open up.
Can we go through this? So, okay, let's see, you're 148 doorbell detected visitor. Let me switch chairs. Because when they come knocking, when they come knocking, I gotta use that key. Do you need more water?
No.
I brought you Gatorade.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Graham is slick. He switches seats with Chris in preparation for the pressure he's going to put on Chris later on. Physically putting Chris in a corner like this can give Chris the feeling like he's cornered and therefore should confess.
I left all the lights on in the house. I was hoping that I'd get a knock on the door. But
Yeah,
nothing
back.
Yeah, but nothing happened.
What do you think happens?
There's a really good saying, first seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Graham can't start poking holes in Chris's story until he hears how Chris believes it to have happened.
If you could think of anything that we could do to find them, what would it be?
I mean, everything that I've exhausted so far is like people that have car seats because she left the car seats. There's definitely a chance of somebody I don't know. Being a guy or a girl, I mean, and she has plenty of friends through like direct sales that I've never met. That could have a kid that they come and just say, hey, you know, let's go. Like, just back up in the back, put them in, let's go.
Yeah, sure, Chris, that sounds reasonable. Someone secretly picked them up, and now they're living their lives in disguise under different identities. He's trying to explain and defend that ridiculous claim that they just vanished. Since Chris is massively narcissistic and likely a psychopath, he comes across so stupid because he actually thinks the FBI will buy that claim.
Have they looked at your phones?
I don't think so.
Okay, can I run that out and have them look real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. I really want them to just not physically rip this phone apart, but really dive in.
Okay.
And are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
What we saw in the house didn't really make sense. Once we found the phone.
Oh. Well,
Because the phone was off.
Okay. What do you mean the phone was off?
It was off.
When you found it was off?
Off.
it was shut down.
Was the battery dead?
No.
What do you make of that?
I have no clue. Like, why was it off and why was it not with her?
It's weird, right? Can we back up a tiny bit? You come home, no one had been in the house.
They have the thing flipped up here.
No.
Okay. No one could get in the house, is that right?
Yeah, unless you had a garage door.
Okay.
God, how you doing?
Can we talk about something that's kind of hard to talk about? So when I work investigations like this, I have to keep an open mind on everything, okay? And part of keeping an open mind is listening to you talk about your wife and your marriage, and the day she goes missing is the day that you guys have marital discord, okay? So you can understand what I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Notice how Graham prefaced it by explaining why it's reasonable for him to ask. Because if Chris feels attacked, he may hire a lawyer and then shut his mouth. Then what are the chances of finding Shanann and the girls? Yes, much smaller.
People knew that we were having marital issues. They're going to look at me, especially with the way everything looks. It honestly just makes me sick to my stomach because this is something that I would never do. Ever.
What does that sound like to you? To me, it sounds like he slipped. Saying this means he knows something very specific that happened to them. However, all previously he said he had no idea what happened. Also, the ever part seems to confirm he's referring to murder.
I know, like, you have to look at every vantage point. This is something I would never do to my kids or my wife. At all.
Now, Chris basically repeats it. Remember, everyone else at this point doesn't know for sure what happened.
So I need to ask you about your marriage and infidelity.
Sure.
Okay, tell me about it.
I have never cheated on my wife.
Okay.
And I fully suspect she's never done that to me.
Oh, okay.
Like, she's always been a trustworthy person. I've always been a trustworthy person. I fully expect if we ever thought about straying another way, that we would tell each other before it happened.
I think that sounds ridiculous. I gotta ask, what's her name?
Here, Graham uses what's called a deliberate skip. Instead of confirming Chris has a mistress and then asking her name, he went right to her name. This takes the suspect off guard to get them to either blurt it out or for the interrogator to at least evaluate their surprised body language to determine deception.
I don't have another one.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay. Would you tell me if you did?
Yes.
Okay.
As you saw earlier, he gave his phone to the FBI to investigate.
3387.
3387.
Did he really think the FBI wouldn't find any evidence he has a mistress from looking at his phone?
What do I do to help you walk out of this room and not look like the person who's responsible?
The classic "let me help you" request. It's effective because it makes Graham come across as the good guy on Chris's side, causing Chris to trust him more, while also giving Chris a blank sheet to explain why he's innocent. Now let's listen to Chris's claim.
You have to trust me that when I tell you that these two beautiful girls right here, I did nothing to them, and to my beautiful wife, I did nothing to her. I had nothing to do with the disappearance. Like, they vanished, they were taken, someone has taken them, they're safe somewhere, we don't know. I had nothing to do with this act of like evil cruelty, whatever has happened here. Because my love for these two girls and my wife, like, I don't want anything to happen to them. I've never wanted anything to happen to them. The amount of love I have for my family is exponential, and it's never gonna die. And I want them back.
Okay.
I have to have them back.
So, do you think Chris's little speech changed Graham's mind? Graham was of course looking for something physical for Chris to point to, which would have at least suggested he wasn't involved. Chris's narcissism is off the charts because, again, very likely a psychopath. He can't see that his little fake emotional speech won't get him out of this.
I can tell that there's just something you're not telling me. And I'm not sure what it is. I don't know why that is. I don't know why you're not telling me, but there's something that's making you a little bit uncomfortable tonight. I just don't believe some of the things you're telling me. Okay, I just don't. I simply do not believe you. Why didn't you call 911?
I didn't think anything was wrong.
I think you knew what was wrong.
I did not know what was wrong, sir.
Tell me about the call to your daycare.
This is what's called stacking. Graham's putting one piece of evidence consecutively on top of another, so the evidence against Chris feels insurmountable to dispute.
To the Primrose, I called them to see if the girls were there. He said they weren't there.
Okay.
I told them since they weren't there, just put them back on the waiting list.
That's not what you told me.
I told them that we were going to sell the house. Or we could put it on the market, or probably won't be in the area anymore.
That's two different things, Chris.
Well, I wanted them to be back I put them on the waiting list since they weren't there.
Why weren't they there?
I don't know.
Where were they going to go?
They went Snan took them to a friend's house.
Why wouldn't they go to daycare?
I am not sure. Honestly, sir, I am not sure.
When you walk out of this room, there's nothing I can say to a room full of police officers that's going to convince them that you have nothing to do with this. Nothing you've told me tonight makes sense. Nothing you've told me tonight feels like the truth. When we find the guy who took him, what do you think we should do?
This question is a guilty person's trap and a little test. If Chris gives any leniency, he comes across as guilty. If Chris shows no mercy, he's just giving the prosecution fuel during sentencing to get the judge to hand down the harshest sentence possible.
They're going to come home safe, correct? When you find the guy.
When we find the guy, they're going to come home.
Life in prison would be that's what I would think with two kids that are involved.
What if he hurt them?
I'm not sure if like that penalty is even used. Is it used in Colorado? I am not even sure.
What is?
The death penalty.
Okay.
I mean, like, if these kids are not alive, like, there's nothing you could do to cope with that, to make me cope with that, if those kids are not okay.
Okay.
Graham looks away in frustration because Chris completely failed his test. Graham knows he's guilty, but just can't get it out of Chris tonight. A parent who desperately wants their children back won't be asking about the technical laws on the books. It would be a very emotional response.
I'm sure you don't mind if we take a break for the night. And I'm sure that you are feeling some of the pressure from me. Okay?
You're doing your job, though.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't grill you a little bit, right?
Graham acknowledges the pressure he put on Chris, which lightens the mood, so he can get Chris back into the interrogation room tomorrow and keep him talking. Now he gets to tell Chris some parting words for him to sleep on tonight.
There is going to come a time when you're going to feel this pressure from other people. I'm not the only one who thinks that there's a possibility you have something to do with this.
Like another FBI agent, like, pressure, or like this, like...
Everyone.
Okay.
Everyone, Chris.
Okay.
Graham wants Chris to think about how his life is going to be hell on the path he's going on right now. So hopefully he'll be more open to coming clean in the morning.
You need someone you can call. I want to be that guy. All right? I want you to go home, and I want you to know that I'm the guy you can talk to, okay, who's not going to judge you. I have kids.
Graham knows after a crime, a criminal will naturally feel scared and alone, especially a rookie criminal like Chris. So Graham is trying to work his way into Chris's life, so Chris talks to the FBI as his therapist.
I would love for you and me as a team to talk tomorrow, to do a polygraph tomorrow, and move past all of it. Okay? Move past me wondering about Chris, me about wondering which Chris I'm talking to. I want to move past it. I just want to get it behind us, okay? And then our talks are going to be a lot more comfortable than they were tonight.
It's now the next day, August 15th, 2018.
Something about is, as we mentioned yesterday,
Chris is now sitting for the polygraph lie detector test. Normally, people don't agree to do a polygraph unless they're innocent. But Chris is so up to his eyeballs in narcissism, specifically with what's called a grandiose idea of self, he thinks he can actually fool the polygraph. Polygraphs evaluate the subtle physical signs and internal signals that someone is lying. When looking at body language to determine if someone is lying, we in part look at how many of those internal signals of deceitfulness manifests outwardly into body language. Tammy is now doing a pre-test with simple known lies and simple known truths.
So, you obviously are a really bad liar.
Like, I have no inclination of where they're at right now. I don't know where to go from here right now. Please bring it back.
Have people told you that before? Like, the second you tell a lie, like, they can tell, like, on your face. Because the second you lied to the number 3, like, I don't know if you heard me clicking, but I had to, like, turn down the sensitivity because you were starting to go off the page.
Yep, confirming why police, neighbor Nate, FBI Graham, and Tammy all seem to know Chris was guilty.
And the coolest thing about this is right now, there's only one person in this room that knows what the truth is. And in about 5 minutes, there's going to be 2 of us. So that's the coolest part, okay? And then I can go share that with them out there. Okay.
Now for the actual test. See if you can pick out if he's telling a lie just with his yes and no to the questions.
Regarding Shanann's disappearance, do you intend to answer all of the questions truthfully?
Yes.
Were you born in 1985?
Yes.
Before 2018, did you ever say anything out of anger to a loved one?
Yes. No.
Do you know where Shanann is now?
No.
Are you now in the state of Colorado?
Yes.
Before 2018, have you ever wanted to hurt someone to get even with them?
No.
Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?
No.
Is your first name Christopher?
Yes.
Before 2018, did you ever lose your temper with someone you cared about?
No.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No.
Portion of the test is complete. I'm just going to pack this up, and then the FBI guy, Graham,
Okay.
that you've been talking to, he's going to come in and we're going to chat. So I brought Graham in here because we want to talk to you about the results, okay?
Okay.
I'm sure you can tell. Graham looks pissed.
So it is completely clear that you were not honest during the testing, and I think you already know that. You did not pass the polygraph test.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need to talk about what actually happened. And I feel like you're probably ready to do that.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise.
Graham covers his mouth immediately because he knows for sure Chris is lying.
Chris,
I know.
Chris, stop. It's time. Just stop for a minute. Take a deep breath.
There's a reason you feel sick to your stomach. And when people hold stuff inside, it makes you physically ill. And I can just tell on your face, I could tell from the second you walked in that you were wanting to just come clean and just be done with this. And I appreciate that because you knew sitting down in that chair that you weren't going to pass today. And you knew I was going to find out because I told you that. Beyond the test when they're asking, significant stuff about your wife, if you're lying to that, it's going to be even 10 times more amplified. And then you continued to stay knowing that you could, at the end, say, you know what, I just need to get this off my chest. Like, I just need to tell you what happened.
Now the interrogators must sell Chris on coming clean, or at least where they can find the girls, and not let the thought come to his mind to shut his mouth, hire a lawyer, and test his luck with the jury. What you'll notice now is the interrogators feeding Chris positive thoughts and positive expectations, while also empathizing and siding with him. They're doing this so he feels comfortable opening up to them.
Holding this lie in is going to do nothing for you.
I know this. Like,
Okay.
I'm not, like, trying to, like, cover things up, like...
Yeah, but you kind of are, because it's normal. Normal people would do that. Normal people that make a mistake initially are going to go, I don't know what you're talking about, I didn't do anything. That's normal. I would expect that.
Tammy is reducing the pressure for Chris to keep up the lie, so he can own up that he is lying. It's very smart. She's saving Chris the embarrassment of lying so he can feel more comfortable and begin telling the truth.
That's a natural reaction that someone's going to initially lie about something like that and then eventually tell the truth. So this is your eventually telling the truth time.
We just can't figure out why there's two Chris's. You know what they have for breakfast, you know what they have for a snack, and a dinner, and a nighttime snack. You can tell me the book you read to your daughters, okay? I know you love them. And you're not faking that, are you? It's real, okay? There's a lot of guys who come in here and try to tell me that, and I know they're lying, okay? Because they can't answer those questions that you can answer, okay? But you are here today lying about something else. So we need to talk about that, okay?
I cheated on her.
Chris starts to crack, but only admitted that one thing because he knew the FBI searched his cell phone. It's a start, so they're going to work with what they have.
I know. And this is very good. Keep
I'm not proud of it. Like, I don't think anything like that could happen. I don't think I would ever do it, but I did.
You're doing a good job. This is the Chris that I knew would come out today. This is the Chris who tells the truth because you're a truth teller.
Chris currently has the self-image of a liar because he's been lying about his involvement in their disappearance for days. Graham is trying to change that image with verbal repetition of how he wants Chris to see himself. So Chris starts to become that and begins to reveal his family's whereabouts.
When I tell you I fell out of love, it's because I fell in love with her.
Absolutely.
Okay? I mean, that's God's honest truth.
Okay.
I don't want her involved in this.
Okay. I knew that you would say you didn't want to get her involved.
But that's just because
you'd like to take care of people.
She's a wonderful person. I never felt that way about anybody in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Chris, that's not your fault.
No,
That's what I meant.
no, I'm just.
Can we do this? I know you want to take care of her it's because you're the type of guy that takes care of women.
Why would Graham say that when he's pretty sure Chris murdered all the women of his immediate family? Again, he's changing Chris's self-image and Chris's expectation of himself, so he starts confessing. Currently, Chris thinks of himself as someone who murders women, and someone with that self-image won't try to make things right. Chris needs the self-image of someone who takes care of women, so they can be found.
It is. You took care of your wife, you took care of your daughters, you were very good at taking care, and you want to take care of her. So can we make a deal? I don't think this girl did anything to hurt anybody, but I can't walk out of here wondering. So, can we leave her out of it? Okay. Get back to your wife and your daughters.
Graham wants to refocus the conversation back to the missing girls anyway. This is his way of making it appear Chris is getting something, so he gives the FBI the girls' whereabouts. But in reality, Chris isn't getting anything.
Okay.
Where are they?
That I do not know.
This should have been the happiest time of your marriage. She's making a little money. She's making good money. You're making great money. You both have a job. You have beautiful kids. You have a beautiful house. You're in Colorado. Clean air, good people. Okay? And on top of that, you look pretty good now. You're pretty fit. Okay? This should have been a time in your marriage where you guys were happy and thriving and productive. Okay? And I believe that Shanann's the reason none of that happened.
Now Graham is blaming the victim for Chris's infidelity? First, understand the purpose is to get Chris to start opening up and confessing. But he's not gonna do that if he feels Graham thinks he's evil. Would you ever tell your deepest secret to someone who thinks you're evil? Also, did you notice anything with Graham's body language when he said it was Shanann's fault? Watch again.
Where you guys were happy and thriving and productive, okay? And I believe that Shanann's the reason none of that happened.
Yep, as soon as he says that, he grabs his right wrist in a sign of holding back the truth. He wasn't doing much of that at all throughout the interview. You'll also now start to see Graham suck in and purse his lips. Graham is lying to Chris.
I believe that she's a controlling person. Maybe doesn't listen to you as much as she should. I think that she can do whatever she wants and you can't.
Now, even more empathizing with Chris, since it's likely Chris's facial expressions are telling Graham that he's receptive to this.
Okay? I think if you were to go to a restaurant, she would order whatever the hell she wants. And as soon as you order a nice steak, she says, whoa, buddy. Okay? A woman that lets her man do all of the backpack packing and all of the cooking.
I'll do all the cooking, but like she cooks like I
Yeah.
do like some things here and there.
Okay? That's because you're a good person, and I think that she started on the path to leave the marriage. Okay? It's ironic that we're talking about you and Nikki. I think that she was the one who started on that path first. What do you think about that?
Since Chris is a huge narcissist, he isn't capable of seeing things from Shanann's perspective, therefore feels a lot of self-pity. Graham knows this and is pushing that button. A full-blown narcissist is actually very easily manipulated. Because of their zero empathy, their blind spots are massive. Graham's main goal is to show Chris he's siding with him, so Chris feels comfortable telling Graham his deepest secret.
I wouldn't have thought about that.
Okay. And the other thing I think is interesting is, even though she is that type of person that's controlling, doesn't listen, does what she wants, is walking away from her kids, here you are defending her. Because to your core, you want to take care of the people you love.
Repeating it again to change Chris's self-identity, and also how Chris believes he's perceived.
How is it possible that a woman and 2 kids are just completely gone off the face of the earth? What happened?
When I left, I mean, it's on video that I left and I was in my truck. I didn't like load anything into my truck besides my tools, my container, my book bag, my water jug, my lunchbox.
Okay, but then what happened?
I drove out of the driveway.
No, before you drove out of the driveway. What happened with your wife and your kids?
I didn't do anything like that. They were still in the house.
Where are they? Where did they go?
I don't know, sir. I really don't know.
Your wife's not the type of person to vanish.
I know she's not.
She had 10 things on her schedule that meant she was going to be there the next day, that day, the day after that, with friends, with a doctor. Okay? She didn't leave because she wanted to.
Okay.
So what happened?
I didn't do anything to her or the kids.
Was it an accident?
I didn't do anything.
Was it an accident?
There was no accident. I don't know if there was an accident in the house. I wasn't there for it.
It's a big deal if it's an accident, because we can work with that, Chris.
Now they're tempting him with the accident card for him to take. You may be thinking, don't do that, you'll let him off too easy. It's just a way to get him to budge off of his canned story that he had nothing to do with it so they can find the girls. Someone with that big of a discrepancy between his lie and the truth isn't gonna come clean quickly. It's too big of a jump. They need to give him steps to get to the truth. Their main focus is just to find the girls. Once they find them, they'll have much more evidence, and they'll use that evidence in future rounds of interrogation or in court to reveal the truth.
I think that's maybe what happened.
I did not cause an accident.
You have not shed one tear in 2 days that you've been here.
Not once.
Not one. And help me understand that, because I don't get it. These are your baby girls. And you have not shed one tear over them not being around. I lose my 4-year-old in the store for 10 seconds and I start to go panic. Panic. Help me understand that.
I love those girls. I would never do any just because I haven't shed a tear. Like, you gotta
Yeah,
realize.
no, that's weird. Is that weird?
Don't look into that.
Get this this off his chest and be done with this, and let us find your little girls so that they're not out there in the middle of a field or whatever somewhere.
So once we find these girls and your wife, right, no matter how we find them, no matter what condition they're in, we can keep talking to you and you can tell us, guys, it's not as bad as it looks. Now that everything's known, now that these girls are found and Shanann's found, however they're found, it's okay. We can keep talking to you.
The interrogators' main goal right now is to find the girls, so for them at this point, it doesn't really matter what story Chris tells them for what happened. Once they find the girls, they'll have much more evidence to use against Chris to dispute whatever toned-down story he decides to tell them. Our justice system determines guilt based on evidence, not based on the story the defendant tells.
Chris, did Shanann do something to them?
No, I don't know.
I'm curious.
I have no clue.
No, you would have known, because they didn't leave the house.
Did
Shanann do something to them, and then did you feel like you had to do something to Shanann?
They were at the house when I left. They were there.
They weren't there. They didn't leave. They vanished.
They were
The
there.
only way they could have left is in your truck.
There's no way, because, like, I didn't just throw them in my truck.
Are we not asking the right questions, Chris?
A little double bind from Graham where both a yes and a no answer makes Chris appear guilty. Yes, you are asking the right questions about how I was involved. No, you're not asking the right questions about how I was involved.
You're asking all the questions.
What are we not asking you right? What are we doing wrong?
You're not doing anything wrong.
Did you hear about the homicide that happened in Aurora, where the guy beat that family to death with a ball peen hammer?
Police say that sometime between 9 last night and early this morning, the Bennett family was brutally attacked with a blunt instrument and a knife.
The only person that survived was a 3-year-old sibling. And that sibling grew up to be a total mess. No family, no mom and dad, no brother or sister. Just sort of by herself. She says, I wish I would have died with them. We had a mom in Castle Rock that suffocated both her baby girls. She's like, my husband was gonna take them, and she's like, I just couldn't handle. I thought I was doing right by them. I thought I was saving them pain.
Naturally, Chris is feeling very isolated and alone, so talking about similar situations in Colorado will make Chris feel it's okay to open up about what he did, since he feels he's not the only one.
Did they look like this the last night you were with them?
This is intended to connect fond memories and a smiling picture to now sad memories of the last time they were around. Graham's hoping this will cause Chris some kind of emotion and get Chris to start telling the truth.
She had that dress on, like, on the 8th or 9th.
Now a series of double binds from Graham. Again, where both a yes and a no answer implies Chris's guilt. He's trying to get Chris to slip just once, and then he'll have something to go on.
Did you guys make sure they were warm when they left the house?
Make sure they were warm. They're always warm.
Were you guys taking care of them at the very end?
They're always taken care of. They never miss a meal.
Chrissy took them out of the house with their blankets and their animals. Like, that's because you cared. I want to believe that maybe Shanann did it and you felt compelled to fix this so Shanann didn't look bad. That's what I want to believe. But I don't know, you're not telling me that, so it makes me think the worst. Like, did you do that to all three of them?
I did not do anything to these kids.
Tammy is now trying the assume the worst tactic, but that's usually more effective if the truth isn't as bad as the worst. And that's one of the reasons why they're having such difficulty getting Chris to budge, because the truth is the worst case.
Not do anything.
What did Shanann do to him? Tell us, Chris. Chicks are crazy.
Can I talk to my dad or something?
Absolutely.
Come.
Do you want to bring him in here?
No, I just can't talk to my dad. Like, I flew across the country.
Did you hear that shakiness in his voice?
No, I just can't talk to my dad. Like, I flew across the country.
That's a lot of progress from where they started. All those tactics, multiple angles, and varying amounts of pressure applied to Chris created tiny hairline fractures all over Chris's cover-up. He's now about to crack.
Can I go out there and talk to him?
Well, I don't know that you want to do it out there because there's a lot of people going through the halls. Should we bring him in here?
We'll step out.
Graham is smart. He wants Chris to talk to his dad in the interrogation room, so it's all video recorded as evidence. They can tell he's about to finally crack. Just because we didn't see their tactics have a direct impact on Chris doesn't mean those ideas haven't gotten planted in Chris's head. It's a slow chipping away process when it's a whopper of a lie like it is here, where the truth will put someone in prison forever.
Polygraph failed it. Yeah, because there's too much emotions. So I mean, they're not gonna let me go.
Is there any reason why they shouldn't?
They know I had an affair. And they know. I can't complain about that.
Anybody got an affair? Anything else you want to tell me? What's going on, or what happened, or anything? Or you know anything about?
When we had that conversation that morning, it was emotional. It was told her about separation and everything like that.
What happened after that?
I mean, I went downstairs and I want to protect her.
What?
I want to protect her.
What happened? She hurt him?
Yeah.
What now?
I freaked out and I hurt her.
You hurt her? Did they leave after that, or what happened? What? She smelled it. Or choking. No.
I didn't hear anything. When I was downstairs, I came back up and they were gone. I don't know, like, what else to say, like, I freaked out. Those are my kids.
And then you went back upstairs and she was...
I can see, like, she was on top of me.
Did she kill him?
They're blue.
Both of them?
Yeah.
She took both of them to death.
I freaked out at the same thing. I couldn't, like, call the cops about it.
So when did you haul the bodies off or something?
Now, watch what happens right after Chris's dad says this.
Yeah, he finally the lawyer. See what he can do. Take the range. Just get killed.
What's that? Is it okay?
Yes, as soon as Chris's dad mentions hiring a lawyer, Graham and Tammy bust in. They don't want Chris's dad to convince or even plant the idea in his son's head to get a lawyer and stop talking openly. Also, this confirms they were listening in the whole time.
You sure? Will you tell us what you told your dad?
He tells Graham and Tammy, but as we know, the story that Shanann killed the girls and Chris killed her out of rage was another lie, because he later pled guilty to all counts of murder against him.
Did the hard part. All you have left is to tell us where they're at.
We can help you get them out of the cold. They're gone. There's no bringing them back.
Well, where are they?
At that first location I went to that day.
Where at?
That's 3319.
Where at? That location.
Right there off the site.
you find them there? Are they in something? Are they under the ground? Like, where would you find them? You take us out there?
What if you and me and your dad just drove by and you could just say, right there, we could help you just get him out of the cold, you know, take care of him for the last time.
What's gonna happen?
We're gonna help him get out of there. Would you prefer that maybe one of your coworkers?
Oh my God, no.
Okay.
I cannot have that.
Chris gets ultra emotional. Getting Chris emotional seems to have been unintentional by Graham, but what it actually did was make Chris realize he better tell investigators where his family can be found before they start using his coworkers to help find his family at the worksite.
You said that everybody thinks I'm a good man. They're gonna see this. You're like, what the fuck did you do, Chris? What? Like, why didn't you just go to cops to begin with?
Well, they weren't in your shoes. They don't know.
I know.
They weren't living your life.
I know, but still, it's like,
People are gonna
I can
judge
never,
you
like,
We'll just go little steps at a time. How about that?
I can't have anybody show you out there, let anybody, no coworkers, please.
Notice how emotional Chris is, but it's all sadness and feeling sorry for himself. He's disgusting.
Okay.
I mean, they're just gonna form their own opinions anyways once they figure everything out anyway.
We'll just take little steps tonight then. How about that?
Do you have to have any of them with you?
No?
No, we'd prefer you.
Can you and me and Tammy and Ronnie get in the car and just drive out there? Chris, I know they're gone, but they're still your babies, and you're still their dad.
You don't want them out there.
I don't want them out there.
And you don't want someone else to find them out there. You don't, I promise you. That looks familiar to you? What is that?
It's the BRC Surgery 319.
Okay. Whereabouts is Shanann and the girls? Okay, can you mark it for me? The S for Shanann, okay. And where are the girls at?
Here.
In these?
Mm-hmm.
So which one is, do you know which one?
Are they in the tanks?
What's in the tanks?
It's a mixture of oil and water.
So how did you dig this out? I'm assuming that's under dirt. How did you dig that?
It's a shovel in the back of my truck.
It's like a work shovel. Is it still there? I would hate for Shanann to get a bad rap if she didn't have anything to do with it. You know, it's not fair.
I know.
It's not fair. Like, enough bad stuff is happening.
I know.
Like, we need to stop the bad stuff from happening. So, you want to tell us the truth?
That is the truth.
The defendant strangled her to death with his own hands. We know that he slowly took her life the morning of August 13th. We know that this was not done in an uncontrolled, vengeful manner that he tried to describe to agents from CBI and the FBI.
Chris, I'm not sure I believe you. What it looks like is that you found a new life, and the only way to get that new life was to get rid of your old life. And I think that you killed these girls, and that's what we're kind of left, that's what we have to believe, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, if I walked in and my kid was decapitated, I'd call an ambulance, right? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up.
Graham and Tammy don't believe Chris's story, even though earlier they were saying this.
Shanann's the reason none of that happened. That's because you're a good person.
Was it an accident?
It's a big deal if it's an accident, because we can work with that, Chris.
Did Shanann do something to them? I want to believe that maybe Shanann did it. What did Shanann do to them? Chicks are crazy.
Yes, it was all just to get Chris to tell them where they can find the girls. All along, they knew it wasn't an accident, they believed Shanann was innocent, and they knew Chris Watts was a monster. Remember to subscribe for more body language and investigative videos, and I'll see you at the top.
So what's going to happen when their cause of death comes back to you, or the girl's
Not going to.
Okay. You sure?
I'm 100% positive it's not going to come back to me.
We're gonna see her hand marks.
The hand marks are not there.
Okay.
But there are gonna be hand marks, like they weren't smothered, you think?
They shouldn't have been smothered, no.
They both died from smothering. Let me say that again. The man seated to my right smothered his daughters. What must Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3, must have experienced or thought is their father, the one man on this planet who was supposed to nurture and protect them, was snuffing out their lives.
Chris, just stand up for me. I'm going to have you face that wall. Yep, just face it. Lift up your hands. Okay, go like this as well. Okay, go and face me. Okay, you don't have anything on you, right? Okay, nothing in your pockets? Okay, go and face that other wall behind you. I'm just going to search you real quick. Search your legs. Further. Okay, turn around and face me. No earrings, necklaces, anything like that? Okay. Let's walk out this way. Go straight. Go out that door to your left. Have a seat.